You know, every single day, billions of products are moving all around the globe. We're talking life-saving medicines, the food we eat, and pretty much all of it has one thing in common: it travels on a simple pallet. It's this thing we barely even notice, right? But it plays this absolutely critical role in the safety of everything we use. So today, we're going to put this overlooked workhorse under the microscope. And what we're going to find is this hidden battle of materials, a real high-stakes game where the safety of our products hangs in the balance.
Okay, so to really get how high the stakes are, let me tell you a story. It all starts back in 2010. A huge pharmaceutical company starts getting flooded with these bizarre complaints from customers about a weird, musty smell coming from their products.
And we're not talking about some obscure product here. This was Tylenol, Benadryl, Motrin, some of the most trusted brands on your shelf. Suddenly, people are calling in saying this moldy smell is making them feel sick, nausea, vomiting, the whole deal. The investigators were completely baffled. They checked the formula, it was fine. So where on earth was this contamination coming from?
Well, the financial fallout was just staggering. Recalls were happening across all these different product lines, and the cost just ballooned to an estimated $900 million. Let that sink in. Nearly $1 billion gone. Not because of a bad ingredient, but because of some mysterious failure somewhere in the supply chain that they absolutely had to find.
And when they finally got their answer, it was something no one expected. The investigation traced the problem not to the factory, not to the ingredients, but to the simple wooden pallets that were used to ship the medicine. Something on the wood itself was getting into the packaging and making people sick.
The specific bad guy here was a chemical with a real mouthful of a name, 2,4,6-tribromoanisole, or just TBA for short. So here's how it works. You take a chemical sometimes used to treat wood, TBB, and then you add a little bit of common mold, especially if the wood gets damp, and voila, it transforms into TBA. And that is the exact chemical that gives off that gross, musty smell.
And there it is. That little molecule right there, that is what caused a nearly billion-dollar headache. It's super volatile, which means its smell can just easily seep right through packaging and contaminate whatever's inside. A simple chemical reaction on a damp piece of wood literally brought a corporate giant to its knees. This was a massive wake-up call for the entire industry. And it turns out TBA was really just the tip of the iceberg. Wood pallets actually have three main ways they can cause contamination. First, you've got microbial risk. Because wood is porous, it can be a perfect breeding ground for nasty stuff like bacteria and mold. Second, chemical risk. They can soak up anything, not just wood treatments, but any chemical that gets spilled on them. And third, just good old physical debris. Wood splinters, rusty nails, they can tear open packaging, creating another way for contaminants to get in. So, with all these problems, the solution seems pretty obvious, right? Just get rid of the wood. Let's switch to something modern, clean, engineered. And you know what? That's exactly what built the powerful case for plastic.
And here it is, the plastic pallet. I mean, just look at it. You can see the difference right away. It's smooth, it's non-porous, it looks like it was designed in a clean lab, not grown in a forest. It was literally built from the ground up to solve all the problems that come with wood.
And when you put them head to head, it almost feels like an unfair fight. Plastic is non-porous, so it doesn't soak up water or germs. It's a breeze to sanitize. No splinters, no nails. They're all exactly the same size, so they're perfect for all the new automated warehouses. And they're tough. They can last for up to 100 trips, compared to maybe 15 or 20 for a wood pallet. The case seems pretty much closed, doesn't it?
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. In industries like pharmaceuticals, where the stakes are so high, you can't leave anything to chance. The pallet isn't just a slab of material to ship things on. It's a critical part of the whole quality control system.
But just when you think the case is closed and plastic is the clear winner, the story takes another twist. New scientific research started to look a lot closer at how these two materials really behave with microbes, and, well, the results were not what anyone expected. This got researchers asking a really fascinating question. What if wood isn't just a passive victim here? What if it has its own built-in defense mechanism? So, they decided to put wood and plastic to the test in a lab to find out for sure.
And the data they got back was just wild. This study basically measured how much live E. coli they could find on different surfaces after they'd been contaminated. And just look at this. They recovered way fewer live bacteria from the wood surfaces, like oak and maple, than they did from the plastics. So what in the world is going on here? Well, the answer is in wood's natural properties. Wood is hygroscopic, which is just a fancy way of saying it's really thirsty. It absorbs water. So when bacteria land on the surface, the wood literally starts to pull the moisture away from them. It traps the bacteria down in its fibers, away from the surface, where they eventually just die off.
So wood has this amazing 1-2 punch. It dehydrates bacteria, and it has natural antimicrobial compounds in it that stop them from growing. But plastic? It has a hidden weakness. See, a brand new plastic pallet is super easy to clean, but over time it gets covered in scratches and cuts. And what did the research find? These tiny little crevices become perfect hiding spots, miniature havens they called them, for bacteria to grow, totally safe from any surface cleaning.
Okay, so if wood has risks, and now we see that plastic has risks, then maybe, just maybe, we've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe the answer isn't about which material is better. Maybe it's about building a better system for managing pallets, no matter what they're made of.
And this new way of thinking led to the rise of a really smart system called pallet pooling. So instead of every company buying and managing its own pallets, they just rent them from a shared pool. A professional company handles everything. They deliver clean pallets, pick them up after they're used, and then they rigorously inspect, repair, and sanitize them before they go out to the next customer. In this simple change in logistics, it completely changes the game. The debate is no longer wood versus plastic. It's about having a managed, professional system. It's about making sure every single pallet is checked, cleaned, and is right for the job before it ever gets near a product.
And of course, technology is a huge part of this. We're talking about total traceability. Every single pallet gets its own unique ID, kind of like a license plate. This GS1 barcode lets it be tracked every step of the way, from the factory to the store and back again. There's complete accountability.
So, all of this brings us to a much smarter way of looking at the whole problem. The big debate over wood versus plastic was never really about finding one perfect winner. It's about understanding that different jobs need different tools, and the system you build around those tools is what really counts. So, here's the final verdict. First off, there is no single best pallet. It doesn't exist. Wood is cheap and can be perfectly safe as long as it's new, stored properly, and inspected regularly. Plastic is the obvious champion for sterile places like pharmaceutical clean rooms, where you absolutely need that non-porous, easy-to-sanitize surface. But the most important factor of all? It's the system. A professionally managed, traceable system is the ultimate key to safety. So the next time you pick something up, just think about the journey it took to get to you. It was carried on a pallet, a silent partner in this massive global supply chain. And as we've seen, the choice of that pallet and the system managing it is one of the most important and most overlooked decisions in keeping all of us safe.